You're now tuned in to the Desire to Trade podcast, a show where we bring you the best figures of the trading world and teach you how you can become a successful trader. This is your host, Etienne Crete.
Here, vice president and founder of Desire to Trade. Welcome to episode 86 of the Desire to Trade podcast. This week I've been sitting down with a very interesting guest, Stefanie Kammerman, and she came to talk about dark pool. Dark pools are something that I didn't know anything about, but Stefanie has been introduced to me by a listener of the podcast, so I was really happy to have her here. Although some of the things didn't apply a lot to my type of trading, which is Forex, Stefanie is a day trader who is really focused on stocks and trading dark pool. She's now traveling around the US, doing workshops and helping traders pretty much every day, which makes her really, really happy. And it's her passion to trade, which is awesome. In this interview, Stefanie summarized the whole thing that it took me about 2 years to learn, and she really explained it well. So I'm sure it's going to make a big impact for you guys, and I cannot wait for you guys to see this. So we'll go right away. Please help me introduce Stefanie Kammerman. Stefanie Kammerman, welcome on the Desire to Trade podcast. How's it going today? Or tonight, should I say?
Well, it's pretty slow because the market's closed right now, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's I can't wait for it to open.
Oh, yeah. That shows you have a passion for trading, I feel. It's really good.
Yeah, I love Mondays.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. So the first question we ask our guests usually in the podcast is, what is one quote that inspires you?
That's a great question. I love this quote so much that I put it on a t-shirt and I wear it all the time. And it's bullish above, bearish below, no thinking. And, what that really means is, well, number one, the market isn't rational. It makes no sense. It never goes up when we expect it to go up. It never goes down when we expect it to go down. So that's where the no thinking comes from. But bullish above, bearish below, there's always a level, a price where you as a trader are going to turn bullish if we break above, or you as a trader, you're going to turn bearish, right? If we break below. And, as a trader, you have to draw that line somewhere. So every single day, I'm tweeting out on stock twits and Twitter, and I'm always bullish above, bearish below a specific level on a stock. That's what I call the T spot. That's the trend change. That's your stop, a spot on the chart where the trend changes from bull to bear, up to downward. And so that's exactly what that is, that price level.
That's really technical. I love it.
Yeah.
So, could you give us a small introduction of what you're doing these days exactly?
What I'm doing as far as trading?
All trading and I guess everything else with trading.
Well, just talking about the level in particular, right? There's a massive level on the SPY. I think everybody watches the S&P 500. Pretty much, if you're a trader, you definitely know what level. Yeah, the SPY, the S&P 500. So there's a massive dark pool level, a level where most of the volume has traded recently. In fact, 50 million shares traded on the SPY at $236.55. And we haven't had a level this big since 2015. Okay, this is how big this level is. And we recently broke below it. And of course, we went all the way down to 233. And, people always say, oh, why did the market, on March 21st, why did it come down so much? Why do we have that? And the reason is because we broke below this massive level, 236.55. So that's what I'm watching these days. That is a key level. As long as we stay below that, I'm going to be bearish. But if we close above that level, I'll turn bullish again.
That's pretty an interesting way to change your perspective, right? Because you're always, I guess, changing the way you see the market. It's not always going to be an uptrend. It's going to be changing over time, right?
Correct. I just follow the big money.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So things that I'm doing these days is I'm on tour with the Money Show and the Traders Expo. And I am also on tour doing numerous presentations. I'm going to be doing a presentation for AAII, Investors Business Daily in Boston at MIT. And I'm pretty much traveling across the country. I've been on tour across Canada. I know you're from Canada.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was on tour with Larry Berman, 3 years. He's on BNN every Monday. He's got a show called Berman's Call. So I've been spreading the word and teaching as many people as I can about the dark pool. I know we didn't really talk about it too much, but this is where the big guys are trading. These are the people, the computers, I should really say, that are moving the market. It's when they buy, it goes up. When they sell, it goes down. So if you just follow these guys, you're going to do really well. And so that's where my levels come from.
That's interesting. I just want to go a little bit back in time. Could you tell us how you started to trade exactly? Like, how did you hear about trading in the first place?
Well, being a woman is a little bit different, I think, than being a guy, especially back in the 80s and the 90s, right? So, my parents didn't tell me that I should grow up and I should be a trader, right? I don't think too many women really heard that unless you were like Muriel Siebert's daughter. Maybe she told her daughter to do that. But so I really became interested because my grandma Rosie, bought me one share of IBM when I was born. And she was definitely way ahead of her time. And she bought me this one share. And, as a little kid, I would always be asking, my father, where is IBM trading? I got so fixated because I owned something. I owned a piece of a company, and even though it was one little share, I became fixated with it. I always knew where IBM was trading. And then, of course, it split and split and split. And so that definitely caught my interest as a younger child. But I didn't really go into it until I was 24 years old. And it was kind of like a fluke thing. I got invited to happy hour. My girlfriend worked at the largest prop firm, and she became friends with these $1 million traders, and they invited her to happy hour, and she didn't want to be the only woman there. So she called me on the phone and she said, "Hey, Steph, you want to go to happy hour with me? A great group of traders. These guys, they make millions of dollars and they're really cool, and you got to meet them." And I said, "Sure." Who wouldn't want to meet these guys? So I did. And it was at that happy hour that one of the guys said to me, "I need an assistant. I can't keep track of what I'm buying and selling. I'm losing so much money every single day." I mean, he was making, millions of dollars a year, but he was losing a lot of money every day because he just couldn't keep track, and he was making mistakes, and he needed an assistant. And so at the time I said, "Well, I could use a job." And he said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, but I don't know anything about trading. I have IBM stock, but that's about it." And he said, "Don't worry, I'll teach you. Can you start on Monday?" And that's how I got into this. I started in the $1 million room at Schoenfeld Securities, which was the largest prop firm in 1994. And I didn't know anything. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me. I mean, I didn't go into this like most people. They decide, "Hey, I want to be a trader." And they open an account and they just start trading. That didn't happen to me. I never even thought that I should be a trader. But here I was an assistant to this amazing trader. And that was my job, to be his assistant. And what I didn't realize is that I was learning how to trade from the best traders in this firm without, thinking about, "Hey, I want to trade." And what happens is a few years later, my boss decided he wanted to move out of New York and go down to Florida because no taxes down there. And I thought I was just going to be out of a job. Oh no, what am I going to do now with my life? And I didn't even dawn on me like, "Hey, maybe you should trade." But the owners of the firm decided to give me $250,000. They said, it was a prop firm. "We want you to trade for us. You know what you're doing. You've been trading, their accounts. You're doing everything." So they felt really confident to give me money. And that's how I started trading. And I did really, really well my first year. I made over 6 figures. I was trader of the year. And they threw another $250,000 at me. And I was running a trading desk. And that's how I started into this business. I don't think too many people really start that way.
Oh, no, for sure. That's really interesting because I feel it's the way I tell people to start, but it's the way no one starts pretty much. So that's interesting. Sure.
I mean, how many people paper traded for 2 years before they did their first trade?
I know a few, but not many of them. And not including myself for sure, no.
Exactly. That's what I did. I wasn't trading my account. I was learning and helping my boss trade, and learning and helping him trade. And then when they finally gave me money, I was a professional, and that's so rare. And I think that's what really, gave me a huge advantage over other people, right? That you could open an account and just trade right away. Nobody's there to stop you. And I think that's a scary part that most people face these days is they just have this easy access, and it's so easy from home. I mean, back then in the 90s, you really had to be at a prop firm to have all the stuff that you needed. Right now, we get everything at home.
Right, that's interesting. And what do you think are the things you learned in those few years that really helped you trade live successfully?
I learned never to think about money. And I think that's what everybody thinks about, and people come to me and they say, Steph, can I make $250 a day? Can I make $1,000 a day? I don't know. Can you? It's about discipline trading. And I learned that my first day on the job, my boss was up $20,000 in 20 minutes. I was young and I'm staring at his screen and I see how much money he's making. I'm excited for him. And he starts freaking out and having a little bit of a temper tantrum. He was really upset. And I was like, what's wrong? And he goes, I lost my discipline. And I go, okay, but who cares? You're up $20,000. And he said, you don't understand. It's nothing to do with the money. He goes, I lost my discipline. I should have gotten out of Intel and I didn't. And he said, oh, it's okay. I made money today, but tomorrow that could wipe me out. And it's not about the money. And so I said, okay, well, what are your rules? Let me know your rules. And he showed me the rules. And I made sure from that day on, ATN, that I would never, ever let him lose his discipline. He would get out when he was supposed to get out, regardless. I never looked at his P&L. I never looked at money. And that is the most important thing, discipline.
It's like being 100% focused on your plan and doing it properly, right?
Yeah, it's all mathematical. Yeah. People get emotional.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Because people tend to focus on money right away for sure from the start. That's a big key for sure.
It's everything. It really is everything. I always say my best trades are the ones that I lost a little bit of money on. That's my best trade. I don't care if I made $10,000 on this trade. I lost $100 on this trade and I got out when I was supposed to. And that was the best trade that I did today. I think that's the key.
Yeah, the trade where your most discipline is always the best one for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then how did you go from being able to trade successfully for 1-2 years to being able to travel the country and do conferences and events like this?
That's a great question. I exploded really quickly due to social media. It's so different these days than it used to be. So, by posting, real live time calls, before I've called the last 11 corrections on social media before they happened. And, when you can call stuff and then you have a lot of followers, and I think it's so amazing because I'm able to help people all over the world. And that's really, I just came in contact with huge money managers, like, for example, Larry Berman. He sat in on one of my presentations and, he's incredible. He's one of the biggest portfolio managers in Canada. He's managing $1 billion right now. And, and through him, he sat in on my presentation. I said, what you do and what you teach makes a lot of sense. And I went on tour with him. And then the Money Show, they found me and watched my presentations and they invited me to do some presentations for them. And it just got so popular. So many people, were so thirsty for this knowledge and really wanted to learn about the dark pool. Everybody thinks you can't see the dark pool, that it's invisible. And I have thousands of pictures of what it looks like. And so this is really how I just got really, really popular.
Okay, so let's get technical then. What's the dark pool and how does it work?
Well, it's been around really since the beginning of time. I mean, it used to be called the upstairs room, but now it allows large traders, Goldman Sachs, Barclays, to do large orders without running the risk that other traders are going to see their hand. Okay, so this is what it allows these big guys to do is, let's just say Goldman Sachs, it's an alternative exchange. So let's say Goldman Sachs wants to sell 20 million shares of the SPY. He doesn't have to show one single share being sold until all 20 million is filled. And he has 3 hours to show us their trade. And the best part for them is, number one, they have lower commissions and they get better fills. They're filled in between the bid and the offer, and they have 3 hours to show their trade. So they love it, We see all these late trades. That's what my software, I can see all these late trades coming in, and I know that they were selling or I know they were buying because they're 3 hours late usually, and the price is far away from where, for example, the SPY is trading. So it's really, really, really great. And this is what moves the market. It's just following these big prints, I call them. And they have a special share size that they do, 501,000 shares. There's like a special pattern that they follow. And this is really what I teach.
Right. That's pretty amazing. It's pretty interesting too. So how do you spot those dark pools? Do you look at how do you call this? Like, do you kind of read the
tape
price or the tape, or how does that?
Yes, but your tape has to have dark pool data feed. That's the key. So there's programs out there, there's scanning software out there and they don't have dark pool data feed. So they're missing 40% of all the volume that is being done in the dark pool. So you have a lot of programs that don't even have the feed, and they're missing out on everything. So it's important to have that dark pool data feed, and everybody can get it. I'm not selling it. It doesn't cost anything. It's just a question of having the right software.
Right. And do you have any software you would recommend people who want to get involved into dark pool? Or?
Yeah, sure. Lightspeed has it. Charles Schwab has it. LiveVol Pro has dark pool. Data Trader Pro, he's a great guy, Jaffe. He lives in Canada, and he developed an amazing software program that has dark pool data feed. So datatraderpro.com. And he's in my trading room. Yeah. So we became friends immediately. I found out. And I have a lot of Canadian traders that are in my trading room, and I share my software. Sometimes in Canada, there's not that much great software, especially to get the dark pool data feed. So they rely on my screen, and I give great data to them. But yeah, I met Jaffe, and we instantly became best friends because I found out that he has, dark pool data feed, and he lives in Canada, and he's really helped a lot of my traders there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But I think what a lot of people are going to tell themselves is that if only they could have the dark pool, they would be able to make money. But I guess you probably have more like rules and things in place to help you make money with that, right?
Sure. I'm a technical trader.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for example, most people don't even know that the market still trades in fractions. So I started trading in the 90s, and we were trading in fractions, eighths, 16ths, fifths, and they changed the decimals in 2001. But what I realized is that they never really changed. So there's key levels that stocks are trading off of as well, off of these eighths and quarters. So as a day trader, that's really, really important. I scalp all day, and I'm also an overnight trader. I'm a longer term trader as well, and I use bigger levels, but I like to draw trend lines. Very big into that. I definitely know my candles, but candles alone don't have a very high success rate. But when you combine them with the dark pool and the levels, you have high probability trades.
I'm really happy you mentioned this because I see so many people who want to trade only candlesticks, but candlesticks alone won't really work that much, right?
No, but they're great to know. So,
Yeah, exactly.
for example, on Friday, I called out that there was a hanging man on a 30-minute chart on the NASDAQ, the QQQs. And it was fantastic because the next candle went down lower and then it came, kind of crashing down a little bit. As a day trader, that's always good to know. I love hammers. Hammers are great candles. There's definitely some rare candles, abandoned babies, knowing that and combining it, with the dark pool is going to give you a really, really high success rate. So that's key. It's good to have some tools in your toolbox.
So basically, the dark pool is going to give you kind of a level you want to trade at, or is it? Or it's going to tell you that there's activity at that, like right now in the market? Or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's pretty much a level that the big guys are either buying or selling. And, sometimes it's like throwing a big rock into a lake. It's going to have a little bit of a splash, and then it's going to have a big move. And so, sometimes I give a stock a day or two. For example, we spotted huge sell prints on GM about 10 days ago. I tweeted about it. I whispered about it every morning. I put out a free YouTube video called The Whisper of the Day, which is my hot stock pick, and it's free. And it goes out to everybody on my list. If you're following me, you can go to my website and sign up for it. But that was my whisper. I was bearish on General Motors below this huge level. And, of course, it came crashing down this past week. So, but, you had to give it a couple of days. Sometimes it happens really quick. Sometimes it takes a couple of days. But yeah, this is where the big boys are trading. And if you just follow them, you're going to do really well. And sometimes we see insider trading. Actually, a lot of times we see insider trading. For example, 2 days before, Wells Fargo is one of our banks here. They came out with fraud. They were opening fraudulent bank accounts. And 2 days before that, we spotted huge selling in the dark pool on WFC. And, I tweeted about it. It was in my whisper. And then I didn't know that they was going to have this news out. But of course, 2 days later, there it is in the news. And of course, the stock tanked. But my whole trading room was short because we just saw somebody big who obviously knew something selling 2 days before that. So we see this happen all the time.
Yeah, I guess it's something that's kind of repeating all the time, right? It's not like a one-time event for...
Oh, no, every day. Oh, yeah, every day. Before downgrades, upgrades. We really see everything before news comes out.
That's pretty cool. And it's only technical, right? It's not about news at all. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mute my television. I don't listen to any news. I just follow the tape. That's it. I follow the tape. What happens is look, a stock goes down or the market goes down one day. And, everybody on the news is, why is the market down? They have to come up with a reason. So they come up with some reason why the market's down or why the market's up. And there's always a reason, right, that we could come up with. They never say, hey, somebody unloaded 10 million shares. That's why it's down. Or somebody bought 10 million. That's why it's up. So, before our election here, where Trump won, right, we spotted the dark pool buying millions and millions of shares on November 7th. It was actually, they were buying it on November 4th. And they were hiding these trades until the 7th, where we spotted them. Before the election, they were buying. It didn't matter who won. If Hillary won, the market would have went up. Trump won, the market would have went up. I think Trump just surprised most people that he won. And I think that people were kind of angry that the market went up and they were shorting it, and that kind of pushed it higher. But it was going to go up no matter what.
But now were there in advance.
Yeah, they were buying it. You know where they were buying it? Off the 200 simple moving average on the SPY. We had a correction and we hit the 200, and every computer buys on that 200. And so again, it's all technical. Right. But they want to come up with a reason. Oh yeah, Trump, that's why the market's up.
And that's the interesting part. Usually the reasons are going to come after, right? It's not going to come before the event. That's interesting as well.
Exactly. But we see this all the time.
Yeah. And then how do you deal with the risk? So how do you manage your money to make sure you don't kind of blow up your account?
That's a great question, right? So I don't trade on margin overnight. There's a lot of traders trade on margin overnight. And that's how you blow your account up. I always keep half in cash, always half in cash. You trade below your means and always hedge, always, because you never know what's going to happen, which means if I have long positions on, I find something that is weak and I'll go short. Or if I can't find anything like that, then I'll buy some really cheap puts just to have protection. Living in New York, I woke up to 9/11, when that happened. The market was closed for a couple of days. And if you were margined out all on the long side, you would have got wiped out. Yeah, we don't know when that's going to happen. We live in a crazy world. And I'm very, very conservative. Most people think that I'm going to trade like huge size and take heavy risk. I don't at all. I'm very, very conservative. I believe slow and steady wins the race.
So what does that mean, conservative, for people who wonder about the percentage? Because I feel people often think that they can risk a lot, or they don't know what that means, conservative. So you have like a fixed percentage you risk per trade, or how does that work?
Yeah, it really depends on, number one, what kind of trader you are. Number one, how old are you? If you're older and you're close to retirement, you're certainly not going to risk what you would risk if you were in your 20s. So that's number one. I have 2 children that I'm putting through college right now. Well, one's in college and the next one's going to start in a year. So, I certainly don't want to risk, too much in the market. But it depends on the size of your trading account. That's another thing that you got to look at. And I always tell people, start small. If you can make money trading 100 shares, then you can move on to 1,000 shares. But if you can't make money trading 100 shares, you should never move up and try to, trade a bigger size. And then you have to look at the market. How is the market right now? There are times when I'm very, very light and times when I'm very, very heavy. And so it depends on the market conditions. There are days where I won't trade at all. And there are days where I'll do, 50 trades because it's great. So again, it really depends on yourself, where you are in your life, the type of account you have, and the market conditions.
Mm-hmm. Is this something you go with like a fixed rule, or you've developed this over time, being able to identify how the market is today, or let's say the past week?
Yeah. So as a day trader, right? People are always so amazed because I only risk 4 to 5 cents. 4 to 5 cents on a day trade to make 20 cents, 50 cents, $1. I love day trading. You know why? Because the risk is so small. When you hold a stock overnight, you don't know how it's going to open up. It can always open up against you. So I'll do options a lot more overnight, and I'll trade stock during the day to keep my risk low.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's a pretty good fight, for sure.
You never know, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You just never know what can happen overnight. And, I'm always prepared for the worst. And again, always protected.
And I think that's the thing about stocks, because if you trade Forex, it's going to be a little bit different because the market's open 24/7. But I guess with stock, that's something I would be really worried about.
How do you sleep? Do you have stops put in place when you're trading Forex?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. But I feel like in Forex, you have more, like you're more sure that your stop's going to get hit if it's going to get hit, right? So it's going to be triggered. While in stocks, you don't really know, right?
It depends. It can gap down below your stop.
Yeah.
So you're definitely going to get hit as a Forex trader. But then they can see where everybody's stops are, right?
Yeah.
Do you find that they come and take your stop out and then move it up?
Yeah, and that's a problem with, I think, new traders where they don't really know where to put their stops. So, of course, if you put your stop where everybody's going to put his stop, it's going to do the same thing. Yeah, you're going to get hit probably soon. And I feel the same applies in stocks, right?
Yes, they can see it. So when I'm trading a stock, I don't get up. I don't walk away. I'm watching it. I look for the price action when it gets close to my level. I look and see if they're refreshing. They usually refresh a bid, which is kind of like poker. They want to buy, thousands of shares, but if they put that they wanted to buy thousands of shares, nobody would sell it to them. Mm-hmm. So they put like a little bit, they get hit, they put more and more and more. And before you know it, they just bought thousands of shares without moving the stock up. And that's what I look at. before I enter and exit. I'm actually looking to see the share size and what's really being traded.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you have to be there to watch the price, right?
I like to, yeah. It gives me a huge advantage. I want to watch every single tick. I'm obsessed.
Yeah, that's a true passion for sure. Yeah.
I love it. I never want to miss, one minute of trading. As soon as the bell rings, it's like, okay, I'm in my zone. As soon as the bell rings and the market's closed, then I go on with my life, and do everything else. But when the market's opened, I'm completely fixated on it. I absolutely love it.
That's cool. So how do you deal with trading and traveling then? Do you have like a rule of traveling on the weekend only, or?
I try to travel obviously on the weekend or at night when the market's closed. I take my laptop with me. So when I'm traveling, I'm trading out of my hotel room. I run a live trading room where I share my screen every day, and I have hundreds of traders, and I teach them while I'm trading live. I think that's the best way to learn. And so it doesn't matter if I'm on the road or home, I'm always trading, but I do have backup. I have traders in my room that will share their screen, and everybody kind of works together and trades. But again, I hate missing one day of trading. Really, it kills me.
Yeah. I think that has been probably one of my biggest challenge while traveling, because you don't know when you're going to be in a train or on the sea with no Wi-Fi, right? So it could be harder to trade for sure. So
yeah, well, that happened to me 2 years ago. I was going to Alaska on a cruise, and it was August 2015. Okay, you remember August 2015? We had the flash crash.
Right.
Guess what? I was on a cruise in Alaska with no Wi-Fi. Okay. And I knew it was going to happen when I was on a cruise. I just knew it. So we were seeing the dark pool selling massively. I mean, it was huge, the biggest levels ever. So I knew the market was going to come down, and I had a feeling it was going to happen when I was away, right? So, and it did. But I was prepared. I bought some puts, and I just didn't think that they were going to do what they did. I mean, that blew me away. I bought these puts for like 85 cents. And when I came back, they were like over $15. That's what they were. And my traders were like freaking out. Oh my gosh. I was like, you knew it was going to happen. I didn't buy a lot. Okay. I'm going to tell you right now. I only bought a little because I didn't think it was going to happen like that exact week. Right. So I thought, okay, I'll come back but we crashed. And then I came back on Monday. That was a low. It went all the way down. And then I got out, and it was great. It paid for my cruise. But so if I go away, I will put protection on, always, really cheap. In fact, I'm going to Alaska again this summer, July 9th. So write that down. That's when the market's going to crash, actually, July 9th.
Interesting. But I feel like that's something I realized, that you have to be willing to be a little bit lighter when you travel. Meaning you have to, if you're going to put a trade, maybe take less of a risk, right?
Yes, absolutely. Or just put protection on, that again, with options, a couple $100, you could put protection on. And if we have a big catastrophe, you're going to be okay, So again, it's like insurance, health insurance for your portfolio.
Now, what are the things you see people in your live room struggle with the most? What are the things that they really have a hard trouble understanding or doing, perhaps?
I just think most new traders, they're just so anxious to make money, that they don't really enjoy the learning process as much as they should. They're just so anxious to jump in and do it rather than, hey, I'm going to learn, and it's going to take a little bit of time before I master it. I think most people have that hard time.
Yeah, truly agree with that. And did you find a solution to help them deal with that, or not yet?
Well, I share my stories with them, and I educate as much as possible. Most people don't even realize how much they don't know until they come into my room, and they're like, wow, I didn't even know this stuff exists. And wow, it's like the holy grail for them. And so, some people pick it up really fast. There are traders that come in and really after just a couple months, they got it, and then others could take a couple of years, could take a year, and some traders never get it. But I think that the key is discipline. I think that really, again, just to go back to that, is I can give 100 traders rules, okay, that they need to follow, my 10 rules of trading. But how many of those traders are going to really follow them, right? What do you think? Out of 100 people, they come in, I give them the rules. How many out of 100 do you think are going to be able to follow them and implement them?
Following 100%, I would say maybe 5%, so 5 of them.
Right, exactly. I think that's the hardest part, is just being able to follow rules. How many people don't like to follow rules? Or how many people try to peg the top and peg the bottom of the market? Instead, just find those high probability trades and, wait for the trade to come to you. I think that's really key. Patience.
And what do you think builds patience the most? Or what do you think builds discipline the most?
Patience. Patience it's hard. How many people can sit and watch the market an entire day and say, you know what? There really are no great setups. The market itself is stuck in a bad spot. I'm going to wait for tomorrow.
Yeah, that takes a lot of years to figure out.
Yeah, and especially I run a room. So, we have new traders coming in all the time. And there are days where, I don't see too much. And I hate to force a trade, but then how come you're not trading? What are you doing? I'm like, I'm really not doing anything today. But tomorrow, then they'll see tomorrow I'll do, 10, 15 trades. And I think that, that's really key, is to really, learn when to enter and when not to enter.
That's really interesting. I feel like one of the things that can really help discipline, because people sometimes don't stick to one strategy because they don't know it's going to work, right? Or it's kind of easy to know that your strategy is good, but you don't know what the results are going to be. And then if you have like a series of losses, then you feel bad and you stop.
Right.
So I feel like the only way really to know, to try something out and to test it correctly and to do it is to really test your strategy a long time and see that it's really valid, right? But you have to see it by yourself sometimes.
Exactly.
Is that something you do, like you ask your student to test their strategy, or not necessarily?
Yes. Well, what I tell them to do is to, number one, paper trade. And when you can when your system works 6 straight weeks in a row, okay, then you're good to go. Because you can get lucky with anything, a week.
Yeah.
But if you do 6 weeks, if your system is working and you're able to implement it, for 6 straight weeks, you have positive weeks. That's what I do to test anything new. So you could be trading for 20 years, but if you've got a new system or somebody's come to you, hey, check this strategy out. I want to do it for 6 weeks and make sure that it works before I start teaching it to others or before I start, using it myself.
That's interesting, because I feel some people ask about, let's say, having a certain money amount or money gain that they have from their system before going live. But you cannot always know what's going to be the money amount you're going to get, right?
No, but again, you start, if it works for 6 straight weeks and you're profitable, all you have to do is increase your share size to make more money.
Exactly, yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, but as long as, and then of course you have, good weeks, bad weeks, the market. Experience is also such a key element, right? You have to experience the market and gain confidence. Confidence is key, really, and you have to be robotic. You have to trade, like unconditionally, robotically, and really turn yourself into a robot, I always say. People get like, when you see traders and they're making money and their trades are working out and they get really excited, like, I don't really like that. Because you know what happens when your trade isn't working out? Then you go into like a depression when you have such high emotions. So regardless of if the trade works or doesn't work, I really do try to keep my emotions flat. Okay, so this is hitting our target. That's, or this isn't. I'm getting stopped out. And I just try to keep it pretty even keeled, because I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, but that's not like the natural thing that you see in movies or anything, right? So you're kind of inclined to act the other way, to be excited, to be stressed or angry or whatever.
Right. So that's why I developed a live trading class called Boot Camp, because I realized there were so many traders out there that need to be like rebooted, emotionally, psychologically. So I majored in psychology in college, and I always wondered, what am I going to do with this degree? Now I know. I really help traders. I can empathize with traders, and I help them, totally reboot. If they have bad trading habits, reboot them. I give them a set of rules and I make them follow it. I don't care about money. And we do trading exercises and I get them into stocks first. Most traders have trouble like entering. And so I enter for them and then I have them get out and then I help them with their exits. And it's really an amazing process. It's a 2-week class. And it takes one time of doing the wrong thing to develop a bad habit, just one time. And, a lot of traders get lucky doing the wrong thing, right? They buy a stock and then it goes down, they buy more, and then it goes up and they make money. And now they're like, oh, this is easy. I'll just, something goes against me, I'll just buy more. And that's like the worst thing you can do. But now they develop this really bad habit. So it takes 2 weeks of doing the right thing, to get rid of that one bad habit. And so that's why I developed this class. I only do it 4 times a year, but it really, really helps. It helps traders that have bad habits. It helps new traders get really good trading habits right from the get-go, because I think that's just so important. The psychological part of trading is, I think, the biggest key component, because we're not robots, right? We're humans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're not naturally made to trade necessarily, right?
It depends on your emotional stability. So what I do is the first day I give my traders an emotional stability test just to see where they fall on the emotional scale. And traders that score high, that are very emotional, I really work hard with their emotions. And, and number one, the biggest thing really is that nobody likes to lose in life. We're going to win, right? You always want to win. And trading, we're going to have trades that are unsuccessful. It's healthy. It happens every single day. And I think that's what really hurts people, because they go into this not wanting to lose. And when they get into a trade that's not working out, they take it personal, against themselves, right? Like, oh,
like
I
a
can't
mistake,
lose. Right. And they, some traders freak out and, oh my goodness, and they take it like, and I said, no, this is a good thing. Let's just get out. We'll take our loss. It didn't work out. Let's move on to a better trade. And I think that is so important, that they expect to have unsuccessful trades, because when you don't expect it, you don't know how to handle it. But if you expect that, hey, I'm going to take 10 trades today, but 3 are not going to work out, and nothing that you did personally, you follow the rules, you did everything right, but 3 are just not going to work out. And if you go into the day every day like that, you're going to do really well. You're going to accept it. Okay, here are those 3 trades. They don't work out. Okay, that's great. Let's just cut them off and concentrate on the 7 that are going towards our target. And I think that if every trader approached every day like that, you'll see that more people would be successful in this field.
This is so well explained. I think just that last part took me maybe like 2 years to learn.
See?
Yeah, exactly. So that's really well explained for sure.
Some people never learn that, and do you feel that men and women approach trading differently?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's a big topic that I've been talking with many people. I feel there's a big difference. Mm-hmm. And I've even heard, like, one of my friends was trading with his wife. They have like an account that they build together and they trade differently. So it's a big different thing for sure.
Yeah.
How have you seen that from your student? They have like big differences you see clearly, or?
Yes. I have a lot of amazing women traders in my room, but I have a lot of amazing male traders in my room. I actually did a little gender trading challenge. I did a whole blog on it on my website. If you get a chance, you can read it. Yeah, so we did a trading challenge one day, but I'm going to tell you, here's the interesting part. The interesting part is I gave them a choice of whether or not to trade with real money or paper money that day. Okay, so that was a whole other part of it. And the female trader made the most money with real money. But then there was a male trader that made more money, but it was paper. But he took more risk because it was paper. And he even said, I would never have done that if it was real money. So I thought that was interesting. But what it comes down to is education, regardless if you're a male or a female. If you have the right education, then you're going to do really well.
Yeah, it's kind of, you have to know what to do.
Correct. Yeah. Because there are female traders that are, that trade aggressively, high risk, don't like to lose. And there are male traders like that. There might be a few more male traders and female traders according to psychological studies. But again, it's education is key. It really, really, really is key.
I want to respect your time because it's Saturday on almost 10 p.m. now. So how can people find you?
You can find me by going to my website, www.thestockwhisperer.com. And if you go to my website, you can find how to follow me across all social media. All those little icons are there for Twitter, StockTwits, LinkedIn, Scutify. We're going to be coming out with a dark pool app, which I'm really excited about. It's going to be out in the next week or two. Yeah, where I'm going to be tweeting all day long where the big guys are trading in the dark pool. The unusual trades, the ones that are really like something big is going to happen with the stock. And I run a live trading room. So if anybody's interested in learning, it's a really great room. We have beginner traders, intermediate traders, advanced traders, and everybody shares their knowledge. I do 2 audio meetings a day. I trade live. I teach while I'm trading. And it's just a great community. And we have traders all over the world. You can try it out for 30 days. It's only $9.95 to do a 30-day trial because I really wanted, people to experience it for a month, for just under $10. You're either going to come in and love it and be like, where have you been my whole life, Stefanie? Like, I love this room, or you're going to come in and say, you know what? I can't do this. This isn't for me. And I respect it both ways because it isn't for everybody. Not everybody should be a trader, but, I'm always looking for, great people to come into my room and just make my room better. And if you're a new trader, we'll be there to help you out because we were once just like you. We were new and it's a great place.
That's right. So what kind of goal do you have for the future, Stefanie?
My goal in the future is to buy a condo on the beach in Florida. That is my goal. I'm very close, and a Tesla. No, I'm actually one more year, and my son will be in college, and then I'll be there. But my goal is to, help as many people as possible. I love giving back. I love teaching because, the more I teach and the more traders in my room that know my system, know how to follow these dark pool trades, the more great call outs there are in the room. Like I found that when I can teach, 100 new traders to come in, it only takes a couple months before they're calling out like great stuff. And now I'm making money because I taught them and now they're calling out stuff and the whole room is doing well because of that. So, my goal is to teach another 1,000, 2,000 traders within the next couple of years.
Nice. And what's your main motivation for all this?
My motivation is, my mother always told me that I should be a teacher. She's not around anymore, but my whole life, because I have a lot of patience. But I always told her, Mom, I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to leave my kids and go teach somebody else's kids. And she's like, yeah, but you're going to have the summers off and weekends off and vacations and you'll get tenure and you'll have health insurance. So now here I am. I always said, Mom, I love the stock market. Like this is what I want to do. And, here I am and I'm doing what I love, which is trading, and I'm teaching. And I got to tell you, I love it. She was right. She always told me to be a teacher. And every day I have, I have housewives, retired people, young people, every age and, thanking me because I'm changing their lives. And, now they can afford to support themselves. And, or even people that aren't even in my room, I do that free Whisper of the Day video. I get emails every day from people just thanking me. And it's priceless. Not everything in the world is, monetary. It's great, yeah, to be able to make money and support yourself and family. But I got to tell you that I get choked up sometimes because it's just for me to be able to like change people's lives is priceless. You can't even put a dollar sign on that. And I love what I do. Like, this is my calling. This is definitely what I was born to do.
Yeah, no, it's just an amazing feeling for sure. And I kind of feel the same way. So
this is what you're doing. You're doing these podcasts, and how many people contact you thanking you?
Yeah, a lot these days. Yeah, it's always growing, right? You always get more than you got the last week, right? So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really great what you're doing and getting it out there. And thank you for doing that.
I just want to remind people that all the show notes are going to be on desiredtotrade.com. If you want to find the links we talked about, everything's going to be there to reach out to you. And Stefanie, we have a question we ask the guests at the end of every podcast. If you could give only one piece of advice for traders in one sentence, what would that one sentence of advice be?
One piece of advice. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the process. Learning. I'm learning, even though I've been doing this for 24 years. I learn something new every day, and I love it. We'll never know everything, but enjoy the process.
That's really powerful. Really powerful. Stefanie Kammerman, thanks so much for being on the Untitled podcast. It's been a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much too, Etienne. It's my pleasure.
All right, so that was pretty much it for the interview with Stefanie Kammerman. I'm super happy about everything she shared on the podcast. Definitely go check out the show notes after the show over at thisartistry.com. You're going to be able to find everything there, as well as a lot of interviews with different traders. And if you guys want to see more of what I'm doing every single day, just check out my daily videos over at thisartistry.com/video. You're going to be redirected to my YouTube channel and you'll be able to see everything I'm doing, which is sometimes a struggle, sometimes interesting, but I really want to help you guys with doing video content. So if you guys want to see this, check it out. I want to thank you for being part of the podcast this week. It's always a pleasure to have you here. And if you guys need any help, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help. And pretty much all my guests are happy to help as well. So feel free to reach out to them. On that note, I'll see you in the next episode of the Desire to Trade podcast. Ciao.
Thanks for listening to the Desire to Trade podcast. To get all the information on this show, free articles, and unique resources, make sure to check out www.desiredtotrade.com and subscribe. Please leave us a review and let us know what you thought about the show. It's time to become the best trader you can be. See you next time.